I went and got one in Kiesel's Orchard.
Yeah.
I'm going to call this meeting to order. If we could you just stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Behrens?
Here.
Mr. Christensen?
Present.
Mr. Ferricks? Mr. Godbout?
Here.
Ms. Lautner?
Present.
Mr. Noonan?
Here.
Mr. Popa?
Here.
Mr. Robbins?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
And Mr. Walter?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, moving on to public comment. I don't see anybody here. Are there any agenda additions or deletions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Do we have
Second.
this?
Yep, it's in the binder,
It's here.
or the documentation.
So moved.
Do we need,
No.
do we need, to include anything in the agenda with regard to, Bill Watson and the GOAT project and the 2% grant? Or can that just come through
Do you
Veronica
want to
Valley?
do it in March? Yeah, you should probably do a recommendation, because you don't even have any documentation to base that on.
What was it you wanted to see, Steve? I mean, what?
Yeah, if we needed a motion to move forward, or a discussion about Bill Watson and the GOAT project. I don't have any
Because you don't
additional
have an
Information at this point.
Okay, when's the 2% deadline?
They're due by the end of May, so you would have to tackle this at least by April.
And I
Okay.
expect to have some information at our Monday Veronica Valley
Okay.
meeting, so. I think
Never
we
mind.
could-
John had moved to approve the agenda as presented. Is there a second? John and John? John and John. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have an agenda. Moving on to action items. We got the Leelanau County Ford Farm Barn Use Committee update.
I left that on there in case you wanted to let people know what you chatted with Chet about.
Yeah, I had a brief discussion with Chet. As long as we keep it as an advisory committee, it's not a problem. Just move forward with it. But if we wanted to restructure anything, or we'd have to go through all the hoops and everything, but it wasn't our intention to restructure that board. This is just an advisory committee, so we'll move forward with it.
So it's going to stay with the amount of members that are listed in the actual lease.
Go ahead, Scott.
Is there a set date for a meeting?
Not yet.
Steve called me and asked.
Oh, he called you?
Yeah.
Really?
Well,
Yeah,
on some
he had
other
asked-
stuff, but, you know,
Yeah, he had asked me, we've been trying to schedule meetings, but with COVID and people been gone and stuff, so we were kind of thinking March.
that's what I told him. I said, early spring.
Right.
What I thought we talked about.
So I had a different understanding of that, Laurel. It will just be the already put together committee.
Yes, whatever you have currently in place, you're not going to add to it. If you want to have a advisory committee for that committee, which is really informal, then you could do that. But if you wanted to change the amount of people, then you'd have to revisit the lease and it'd be a lot.
Right, okay, so we can still have the separate
You could.
advisory committee that we
But
discussed.
it doesn't have the same punch as what the current committee structure is.
Right, because the advisory committee would refer back to that, the 6-person
Right.
committee. So,
Right.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Right. Okay, moving on to approval of the minutes. We got the January 19th organizational first.
I move for their approval as presented.
Motion by Melinda, do we have support?
I'll second it.
Go
I wait for the second before I go with one small comment?
Sure. Yep. Dave, second it. Go ahead.
Just changing one word on that paragraph where I was introducing myself. He worked as an accountant and computer science, not in computer science. I had two different sets of jobs, computer programming and accounting.
You want to change your motion to approve them as
Oh,
amended?
yeah, I think that's pretty the standard, but
It's just a fine
certainly.
thing.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye?
All those opposed? Motion carries. Now we have the January 19th regular session.
Motion to approve the minutes as written.
Support?
All right, we've got a motion with support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the approval of financials.
Melinda had mentioned that she wanted to see a picture or what was actually published in the two editions. So that's included right after the budget status and transaction history. And I know that we just had a meeting late January. So if there's any additions, it's probably minimal to the transactions.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman, on financials.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for this, Laurel, by the way. But on the temporary office assistant, how are we going to be doing that?
You have a line item,
Well, there's nothing in it from what I can see.
then they'd have to amend that line item. They probably took it out because at one point we weren't actually.
Right.
But now that we are, then they'll just have to amend the budget.
Finance department has to bring an amendment to us, and we'll do that
Well,
then?
they'll do a journal entry or whatever it is that they do.
Okay.
To put some funds in there for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
we just haven't done that yet.
Right.
Okay.
Move to accept as presented.
Is there support? Moved by Steve, supported by Melinda. All those in favor of approving the financials, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. And then, do we need approval of the advertising? Or is it just,
Well, he asked to move it to February, so,
okay,
and Melinda wanted to see a copy of what was.
Yeah.
okay, so we can, it'll just be a next.
So, well, I guess it's up to you if you want to, because Steve, didn't the guy say that the cost would not change?
Yeah, the document we had last go and the numbers that were represented on it,
670.
It was $650 for
yeah,
the visitor's guide.
650. and
$470 for the color tour.
470. Those are the 2021 numbers, and if we move forward with that, and make payments early, the early bird dollars stay the same.
When did they need copy? Because somebody wanted to change the color tour to have some fall
Well,
pictures.
You would have to work with them on that. They do all the design work.
We don't know if
If
they
somebody
have-
wanted to generate, bless you, photos that were, fall color photos for the Color Tour magazine, then that would probably be a good idea, but we'd have to work with, the layout people, well in advance, to get that to happen. So if some photos were available at this time of the year and we could work with them early in the season, spring, early summer, then it would be ready for the Color Tour magazine. It's either that or take the photos maybe from similar positions that these photos are from, and then go for next year's change.
Yeah, that's the problem. We wouldn't be able to take photos
We're a year
choose
away.
color and get it in the color section, because that color tour will be printed before we get any.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, what their schedule is, but they're pretty far ahead in doing both of these
Yeah.
things.
Scott?
I may have photos.
Okay.
I will check. I may have one or two that would be
Somewhere.
suitable from Veronica.
Well, maybe we could get a motion to approve moving forward with it, and then let them know that we're trying to find some fall
Okay.
photos.
I'll look tonight.
Okay.
So, I guess,
If you remember, right?
No, I'll remember, it's just mine, and
I guess I'll make the motion to go ahead and approve for the, whatever the first one is.
Melinda has,
Go ahead, Melissa.
Yeah, that's good. If you want to accept a motion first, thank you, Mike, but
No, this-
Yeah,
either way, I just do have a question on it.
Yeah, just a motion to approve both of these moving forward at this price. Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
I'll support.
Okay, so
Go
now,
ahead.
now,
Put it
it-
on it.
on, I'm kind of torn on this because I have, it's okay, it's not a lot of money, so I'm okay with supporting it. But have we gotten feedback from visitors on our webpage or anything? How many people are actually being drawn to our parks by advertising them? Outside people, or even local people, because I enjoy reading the visitor's guide. There's always something in there I didn't know was going on. Have we got feedback?
I haven't, perhaps the Enterprise has. I do know that I could generate some reports to see how many hits we get on the parks page.
Oh, that's a good idea. I would be interested in that. Also, when you have this QR code, when they open that up, what comes
It
up
goes to
there?
the general parks page.
And is there more information on our parks there?
Yeah, it features all the parks, and there's
Okay.
links, I think there's even a link to the Historical Preservation Society for the barn. Yeah.
And do we have, are we able to generate how many people are using the QR code to
I don't know if I can do that, because that just
Okay.
simply directs you to the web page.
to the webpage? So we would
Yeah.
maybe have a little bit of a burst in that, okay. And then, we've got quite a bit of information in here, but we have done a lot with the native plantings at Veronica Valley Park. And I think that that's an interesting thing that could draw people to seeing what we're doing there with native plantings, so native grasses. So we got a little time, I think, to think about if we want to change it, but that's something maybe that Parks Committee could, if you want to add that, if you think it's important, if it would bring any benefit to our park to mention that. And I thought it would be also kind of interesting if, when it gets to like the amenities, is maybe do them just a little bit bolder, especially our hiking trails, because I know that's one thing a lot of visitors do like to look for. They want to know if it's dog friendly, and can they hike it? Well, that's another thing too, but maybe.
Adding to that, that reminds me, also might want to jot down cross-country skiing,
Oh,
because any trails can be accommodating to cross-country skiing.
Maybe
And
promote
it's put in there
four-season
unmaintained.
amenities.
yeah, you could, yeah.
Yeah,
Could mention that in it.
Mhm.
pretty good.
Especially in the two.
Non-groomed.
Yeah, well, we have some groomed
Been
too.
groomed.
Yeah,
Well,
we have
it is,
room.
if it's cross-country skiing, it's groomed? Oh, no kidding. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
see, there we go, let's do
Trail's gotta
it.
be in pretty good shape, isn't it?
I skied it twice in the past week. Prior to last week.
There's the groomer.
Yeah.
There's the trail. Very good.
Yeah, Mike probably doesn't know we have a groomer, he's new to the park, so, yeah, that would be just my thoughts. I'm not real good at this type of thing, but I know if you're glancing through it, the bold might catch their eye, and we might get more visitors to it.
Scott, do you do it? You groom. Cool.
Try to.
Busy guy.
Okay, we do have a motion on the table to approve purchasing and advertising again. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Moving on, we got, next up is the potential grant opportunity.
So a couple things with this. I don't know if anyone else was able to view the link and then sign up for the workshop that the DNR put on yesterday from 1 to approximately 2:20 on granting opportunities coming up for this year.
Yeah, I viewed it.
Yeah, it was pretty dry.
And it was at the 30,000 foot level as far as
Yeah.
information.
But it certainly highlights the thought that you really have to have all your ducks in a row with documentation and visuals on how you want your project or projects to progress. One thing that and I can actually go online and download and print out copies of that grant booklet on the process for everyone. One thing that stuck out to me though, that they have some unique grants, one that gives you awards good points for parks that may have rare or unique features such as the monkey flower. They give higher points for water frontage, top points for anything with the Lake Michigan shoreline. But for us, it's definitely food for thought. And the grant coordinator that spoke at length that represents our region said that even if there isn't something the state can do, they have no problem with working with you to suggest maybe some other granting opportunities that they know about that you might not. So it's definitely something to look into, but again, plan. You know?
My takeaways were essentially it's like an 18-month process to get started, to get your application in was probably about 3 or 4 months after you get started. And then it's like a year before they finally get to the point where they can award monies.
Well, kind of like all of the legwork that Dave did leading up into the time that they opened the granting period, they tried to get everything done so that then it was just boom, boom, boom with, I think, an April 1st deadline that you had to have it finally submitted. Another concern that I have is you have to make sure that there isn't anything that could impact your project, such as waste. And so that brings to mind Miles Kimmerly and the fact that we got a couple of septic tanks, and would that impact how they're going to award the grant, if that's something that we might have to. So it might be worth it to talk to Trudy, since she does a lot of stuff like that with solid waste management, and kind of see if that's something we'd have to be concerned about, or if we could just leave it as is.
Pit toilets.
Yeah, that's what she's talking about.
Well, the Maple Valley Nursing Home has the double
Oh, with the waste,
septic
yeah, the
tank,
wastewater, yeah.
which that lease is coming due next year. So we
Right.
got to make sure we get on them to impress upon the importance that we might not be renewing that, and you've got to think far enough in advance. Now, I can say with the informal meeting that we held last year with the two gentlemen, the Casbins that own the father and son, the younger gentleman noted that he was looking at expanding and doing some Eden opportunities behind the existing structure, which would mean that they'd have to come up with a totally different septic system anyway, because it's going to double the amount of waste.
Right. And they have enough property up behind.
2023?
Yes,
Yep.
April 2023.
So they should be doing something this year.
Should be. but
That's
most
why we
likely
should
not.
keep on them.
What would the formal process be to, going into, our saying that we're not gonna renew?
Well, if I recall the terms correctly, we had to give them 90 days notice, but I think we're giving them more than adequate notice.
I think it was pretty clear that we were not interested in renewing
Right.
when we met with them.
Should we be putting something out in writing to them?
Well, we can talk to Chet about it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, because of the families having to seek alternatives, I think more notice the better.
Yeah,
They know about it, and they,
it's,
even when Chet.
it's no
met-
secret.
Yeah, when Chet talked to them last year, they knew about it, and, well, they said they did at least, and said that they were making other plans, but a year is not a whole lot of time to rebuild a whole septic system for,
Not
That
as
type of
busy
situation.
as contractors are. They
Yeah.
should be locking one in for this year.
so.
And he was talking about probably needing a step system that would pump it uphill.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Just the design work is gonna take some time. They haven't started yet. The whole design, yeah.
maybe,
I'd like to add to what Charlie said. He said his takeaway from the training session, and I've attended 2 of those in person in the past. Melinda, you were at one, the first one, and you and Deb were there with me as well. I think it's a 2-year project from the time you really, this group says, yes, let's go for this, and then to get everything in order and done really by March 1st, so the application is in fact complete by April 1st. I think it's a 2-year process to get all of this stuff together. And then part of what we learned from our experience going from those grants the other 2 times, we're at a tremendous disadvantage here in the north, and particularly with property values in Leon County. Those things count against us in the final scoring of an application. I don't know that my conclusion is, let's not go for any of those, but we've made more progress at Veronica Valley on what we can afford out of this year's budget. I mean, doing pieces at a time rather than the whole project. We've made more progress, just getting at it instead of putting in time on the application, et cetera. It's just feedback. It's not a voice that we should or shouldn't go for other state grants, but it's a long process. And
it takes somebody very dedicated like Dave was to the whole process. You have to, I mean, your commitment to that was a lot.
you know, getting letters of support for one thing is a time consuming because you gotta wait for the various committee or group that you're going in front to have their next monthly meeting. You can only do maybe a couple in 1 month and then a couple more the next one. There's a lot of time consuming steps involved in those big grant applications. I have another question that's just a little.
I was gonna add to what you just said, that's on top of hiring a company to spearhead doing it.
Right.
If you're gonna have,
Dave's comments all are on top of hiring somebody to spearhead it.
and if you're going to have a final project in excess of 15,000, so it's not much of a project, then you have to have a certified contractor, architectural,
Planner.
landscape architect. You've got to have one of whatever it was, 3 certifications. One of those kinds of persons involved in signing off on the project at the very end. So you really need them involved from the very beginning. You're not going to get somebody to sign off on something. So Steve's point about going through that kind of hiring and that kind of expense to pull together that scale of application is, again, might work, it might be a good avenue to process, but it's a real lengthy, time-consuming process.
Did you say you had another question?
Laurel, do you remember last spring we got information about the organization? I place it in Petoskey, but it was a regional organization that had some grant funds available for such things as padding underneath playground equipment.
I don't recall that.
You put out a notice to us. This full commission looked at it and said, we don't have time to take that on right there.
Mhm.
Do you have any memory of what that organization was? Or?
No, I'd have to look back at my emails.
Maybe you and I can look into that.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't, a smaller grant, an easier grant, and very specifically, since we're talking about our playground equipment at Old Settlers. There was one grant I remember from last spring that just came up at the last minute for us, and we said, no, we don't have time, any of us individually to take that on and get everything together. But that's one we might be ahead of right now, we could look at. And I hope by Monday at the Veronica Valley meeting to have more information about the possibility of another application for 2% money.
Great.
In addition to goats?
No, that, it's still gonna be goats.
Okay.
That Bill's organization plans it.
Okay, moving on to committee reports. We got wayfinding signage. That's for all committees.
Who's spearheading that?
With our shift in meeting schedule, I thought I was gonna have Veronica's recommendations to this group for this meeting, but we don't have our meeting until Monday.
Okay.
I got that set up and then remembered we shifted this meeting. So, we have signage, we think pretty much there. Veronica will be looking at it on Monday. Actual recommendations specifically. A specific look that you will all see. Okay.
Dave, what was your feelings about adding the mileage onto the trails? I sent you that.
Yes.
That's a good idea, bad idea?
Don, Veronica's so small, I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I must admit, when I hiked out at Dunes, I have looked at the distance.
We can talk about it.
So we'll talk about that.
For miles, I think it'd be nice for the loop that Scott developed and everything. I'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to Miles Kimmerly.
Okay, well, Miles Kimberly the committee met after the commission meeting on the 19th, and we came up with a couple of ideas on where to spend your money. And that's on the cost analysis, the Miles Kimberly project you have in front of you. And there's number one, the shed addition of the maintenance building, and number two is the toilet enclosure. And I'd like you to focus mainly on the toilet enclosure, because I'm going to take you somewhere with that. There's one exception on the numbers on that page. The construction costs are probably going to be more like $15,000 on the way that stands, not $10,000. That has to do with how it's done, constructed and whatnot. I got different bids, estimates from different builders in the area, and this is about the best that I can come up with. And we really need an RFP to throw it out there once we decide on what we really want to do to find out what it really is going to cost. But it's going to be in the $20,000 to $25,000 range for sure. But I want to talk about some of the money we have and for this Park and Rec Commission. And I think some of the money should always be used to maintain what we have, and we shouldn't be adding stuff on anything until we really take care of the things that are important for presenting the park. And that's like the road going in, like we're taking care of at Veronica Valley. That's for all the parking lots, that they're not rut holes in them in water in the ground, especially with the thaw. So I think that's really important, and we shouldn't spend money on any additions until we take care of the maintenance. And at Miles Kimberly, we've sort of done that, or the commission has done that by the cleanup of the logging of the storm damage. So that's been important. We did that in the past year or two. And we also are taking care of the grub shack. We're going to get that out of there, which is kind of an eyesore, and it's not sustainable to maintain that or to redo it. So that's going. So we're doing good maintenance. But then when you start adding stuff on, if I want to add stuff on Miles Kimberly, I thought, well, I have to look at other parks too. We have 3 parks, not just 1 park. So I'm saying we have to prioritize what we're going to do and what you're going to recommend, what the full commission is going to recommend. So with that in mind, I looked at the 5-year plan. And if you look at this sheet that I handed out, that's the projected ideas and themes. I looked at all 3 parks and got what ideas or themes or things we could develop over the next 5 years. And what's really interesting, I found out, amazingly, we've really addressed a lot of these already. Not totally, completely, but we've really gone into a lot of these. For the first one, as an example, the loop trail, okay, we don't have that, it's not there, but Scott on his own gone out, and he has mapped out, and actually has it used by people out there, of a 0.8 mile trail at Miles Kimmerly. And that's on a sheet that I don't think you folks have. I thought Dave was gonna hand that out, but we don't have it. But there's actually a loop trail at Miles Kimmerly already in a rough form, but it's a trail that people use, and so it's a start. And there's some other things on there. The refined wooded trail, that was the cleanup of the logging debris, and that's been done. So we have a lot of things that have been done. And if you look at the list, you can see that. What hasn't been done, when I went through the list, is a central kiosk, parking issues, closer parking lots, guardrails, things like that. Maybe a couple of picnic pavilions, excuse me. The pickleball courts on there way back for the 5-year plan. That hasn't been done yet or anything. Let's skip that. I'm going to talk about that. And then also universal access and ADA issues. We've talked about it, but we haven't done a lot about it. Some of the parks have some things. Miles Kimmerly doesn't have a lot of ADA, but some of the things we're looking at have to include that. And then the other thing is restroom upgrades. We talked about pit toilets, eliminating the pit toilets. We haven't done that, whether we should or shouldn't. There's pit toilets at Miles, there's pit toilets at Old Settlers. And maybe they should go before something bad happens. I really don't know. I thought, well, maybe you just put a little child-proof lock on the door to get in there, and that's all you need. Maybe a little kid can crawl under the door, but it's something we do have to talk about. But with all that in mind, I said, well, where do we go? Where should we spend our money? Well, first thing we should do is maintain what we have. I think that's important, and I really do. On the right-hand side of the same sheet where the 5-year plan is, we voted on different things, and those are the 5 items up on the top on the right-hand side. Those are we voted on: replace the grub shack, playground equipment, upgrade entrance park, etc., pickleball, paved loop trail. So those are things we voted on. Other things we've talked about we didn't vote on during that time were a dog park, drinking fountains, which came in later, and I'll explain why that's there, ball fields, and parking improvements. So this top item, the grub shack, replace the grub shack, with the Miles Kimmerly Committee, that's also got the name of a soccer pavilion on there. I think that's the same thing they meant. So we say, okay, we'll call it a soccer pavilion. I like that. Whatever. Anyway, our committee decided we want to break that up. We don't want to have just replace the grub shack that was used for storage and other things, maybe a small office building, but it was also used for the toilets in the back of it. So we said, we'll break it up, and that's why we came to this Miles Kimmerly report about the, number 1, the shed addition of the maintenance building. This was going to be for storage and an added office for Scott out there. The toilet enclosure was just going to be an enclosure for the 3 regular toilets and a universal access toilet. But then I got to be thinking about all these things on the 5-year plan that we haven't addressed. And the big one that came up to me was this kiosk, central kiosk, and universal access. And the drinking fountain came in because when we took out the grub shack, the drinking water supply or that is just there, and we really need to put in drinking fountains, especially with people playing soccer there and baseball and whatnot. So we really need a formal place where they can fill drinking water bottles and, fill their cups up again. So I think when I looked at it, I thought, well, if I had to pick one thing that I really want for Miles Kimmerly this year, actually sooner than later, is drinking fountains in Miles Kimmerly. Well, how do I get that? I can't just sit there in the middle of the field, so we have to go with the toilets, and that's a good place to put them, right by the toilets, adjacent to it, and attach them to that building. Well, when we were looking at the building, we said, well, it's a small pod. Well, what if we use it for something else later on? We should make that pod bigger. Well, maybe we should make that slab of cement bigger right to start with and make it a kiosk, a toilet container area, and a drinking fountain area. And it'd be a central kiosk, which we wanted in our 5-year plan way back. And it would take care of universal access. We'll have a trail going up there for wheelchairs and whatnot to get water, go to the restroom. We have the universal access toilet there. So it pulls in a lot of the things that we're missing from the 5-year plan and from the things we've talked about here in our committee. And I listed those: the drinking fountain, parking improvements, a restroom upgrade, and universal access issues. So what I'd like to see us do, and some of this I should have taken to the Miles Kimmerly group before, but because of scheduling, I'm trying to adhere to get the ideas and we could take it back and fine tune it and whatnot. But I'd really like to hear what the whole group feels about dedicating our monies this year to a nice central kiosk that includes a message area for messages and signs that show the trails, for toilets, a universal access toilet, a road going up to it, a parking area close to it so people can park there and not have to walk a long way to get there, and the drinking fountains. The drinking fountains alone, Scott got an estimate out, and I hope we can find another one maybe. We're $3,500 alone right there. So it's a project, it really is, but if we maintain what we have and do a good job, if there's money left over, I think this is a worthy project that's gonna help the whole county parks. Not just Miles Kimmerly maybe, but I don't want to be too provincial about it, but I think at some point in time we have to say, let's put our money where it's best used on any given time. And I think this is some item that we should think about. And I'd like your comments.
Go ahead, Rick.
To add on the part there, first of all, I think we discussed it at our meeting, the drinking fountains. I'm all for it, but right now, I don't know if we can put a drinking fountain in because it's county property and our drinking fountains here are shut down. So until we get through this pandemic, I don't think we can even touch a
Well,
drinking
you can
fountain.
prep for it and anticipate.
Right, you can prep, yeah, but I mean, as far as setting them up right now,
When you build the whole unit, it's just like the slab. You can't make the slab just for the toilets and the universal access. You expand it a little bit, keep it a kiosk and make it accessible for the drinking fountains. There's gotta be a little bit.
You could put the plumbing in, I guess, or whatever.
or you could, yeah.
But you're not gonna have them up and running.
Right, but on another note that no one knows until I just found out an hour ago, on the 1 mile path, I did talk to Steve Endries at Elmer's, and it's just a rough estimate. I'm gonna meet with him next week. Just for the asphalt alone, to do 1 mile, 8 feet, 2 inches thick, is $65,000. So without looking at it, the grading and the prep work, we can probably do it for under 150, the whole mile. So I came up with 150, but he was thinking maybe close to 120, 125.
That's great.
That's without
Really,
looking
we
at
have a
it.
.8 mile loop, which is fine.
All right, yeah, that's a 1 mile. I told him, give us a 1 mile. And, so that's, I don't know, somebody, I thought we had a figure of 300,000 or something years ago or something.
Or more, so that's a
more.
fantastic
Yeah.
idea.
So,
I like that
yeah.
a lot better.
But that's what he said, they would be in the ballpark about 125 to 130 without looking at it right now.
That's doable.
That's in the neighborhood, it almost makes me think that, if we can get our hands wrapped around that a little better, that's an item we could take to the county commissioners
Right.
and say, this is what we're looking at, and obviously it's not in our budget, but I'd like the county commissioners to think about it, and then the ball's in their court. But this number is a lot better than I thought it was gonna be.
I did too, I mean, because when he told me 65,000 for the asphalt, and then it's like, okay, what's it for the rest? I mean, I thought it was gonna, let's say 300,000 or something,
Yeah, wow, that's amazing.
That'd be great.
Sure. Now, that kind of item would fit well within the Recreation Passport Grant program from the DNR. That's an improvement to existing facility, which is part of what Recreation Passport's for. A walking trail would be a higher rated item than some other improvements, at least my experience with dealing with that tells me so. And that's a dollar figure that's within range as well.
Well, what I'd like to see is before, we do these other projects, if we're gonna look at the trail, let's try and coordinate the building, the water lines, and, come up with a plan before we, I don't wanna build a building, that's where the trail's gonna go, or build a trail and the water line is supposed to go underneath it, we could kind of plan it out. And, if we get the money, it's great.
Go ahead, Joe.
I would just speak to supporting the drinking fountains. I go to those fields. Scott has them very well maintained, and I have grandchildren there. So if you have 10 kids on a team, 2 teams, you play 4 games, there's 2 fields, that's 40 kids. And they're gonna be thirsty. And that's them, the 3, yeah, good with her.
Well, I also want to mention, when we were determining what we were going to purchase with regard to the CARES grant that we got a year ago for COVID, one thing that our main instructor, Jerry Coleman, had identified as a use would be a touchless bottle filling fountain, so that you're not actually getting your lips near anything. You're just sticking your bottle, it's filling it up, you pull it back and it releases. You're not touching anything.
They have them at the schools now.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, those are.
They're pretty slick.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, Laura.
Well, Jerry hasn't gone through with doing something here with that,
Okay.
but it would definitely work for any of our parks.
That's a good point, and I watch these kids, a lot of them have their own,
Yep.
I mean, that's that generation, that's what that generation does. But anyway, I just want to support it because I see a lot of kids, and it's the one with the 3 parks that has group activities.
Do we have any water service at Miles Kimmerly now?
Yeah, there's water there, yeah.
Well, no, I meant in terms of a drinking fountain of some sort or anything like that.
Just
Freeze hydrants,
Hydrants.
which they use as drinking fountains.
Go ahead, John.
I'm all done.
I'm not a big fan of drinking fountains. They're a maintenance item. They're gonna freeze in the winter. You only use them a certain amount of the year. It's a high maintenance item, and it can get ruined pretty easy. People now, when you bring teams, whoever's running that team or whatever, they bring their own coolers and stuff and their own paper cups, and they have their own water. And to provide it at one park, just because there's teams there, it's a waste of money.
They don't bring their own water.
What's that?
They do not bring their own water, they fill it out of the fountains.
Yeah,
Well, they have a fountain or hose bib, you said?
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I went on a little park tour here a few months ago, and the national parks now have something like someone just brought up. You don't have fountains, you have this little faucet and bib where you can fill something up that you have and fill your own water bottle and do that, but anyway, fountains are
Yeah,
speech.
when, one of the things that I don't think we need, and maybe Scott, you can correct me if you think it's necessary, kids don't need cold water as this water fountain that we were looking at for $3,500 or so. They just want
I
water.
don't even think that's refrigerated.
I'm sorry?
I don't believe that one's refrigerated.
Okay, because I'm not sure, but we definitely don't want to spend the extra money to try to refrigerate something. They
It's
just
not.
are thirsty. Yeah, okay.
It's, but they're expensive. Those green ones that they have in Traverse City
Yeah.
with the bottle out, those are over 6,000. What? Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead,
That's
Marvin.
for one of these bottle filling gizmos?
Yeah, those tall green ones, it's like at the open space.
I haven't seen it.
On the,
They're all over Traverse and the parks, but they're $6,000.
on the TART trail, I don't know what it costs, if we're looking at thousands of dollars. There's a hand pump, and, and you pump it and you catch the water. I don't know what they would cost, but, something really simple can
Which is what
sometimes
we
go
have
over
now.
well.
but I
Well,
mean,
we
if you
have something simple now.
Yes.
Yeah, we freeze
But if
hydrants.
we do move forward with this project, which I don't think the whole project's a bad idea at all, I think that would be by far our best option, is having the
Exactly.
bottle filler,
Yeah.
not a regular old drinking fountain.
Right,
I don't think that's unreasonable, because, I mean, we're gonna be shuffling that water line around anyways, right, once the building gets removed?
No,
We don't have to, I thought we had to detach something there.
we pulled out the pressure tank out of the building. It's already in the ground. That's all done.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Oh,
something
wait a
along the
minute.
same line, and the other thing I would add is that what we don't wanna forget is, our parks provide a real service to all of our delivery trucks. And, yeah, they're the ones using our pit toilets or our porta potties, and, I know they too did the same thing, they're filling their water bottles, and, you know, they're
Yeah.
using freeze hydrant right now. And bikers, and they can only carry so much. And I know they stop and fill, you know, as they're touring the town, they stop and fill too. Bikers and probably disc golfers and all of them too. They're probably filling after they play. So there's a wide range of people who I know they're,
I saw a full-blown semi at Veronica Valley just the other day. He came in and it was a place for him, and he could pull, and 40-foot trailer,
Yeah.
50-footer.
yeah, they gotta stop somewhere. And, you know, Cedar's dealing with that right now. They have a porta potty there down by the river, and it's not locals, but they have to pump it, I think, once a week. It's delivery guys need to use it.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I just thought of something on the water. Has anybody ever thought about, instead of having a pop machine there, have Coke or Pepsi put in a water machine with just water bottles, and we can make revenue off of it?
Is that an idea? Summer
Sugar's
months?
not good for your teeth.
What's that?
Just
He
water.
said
No, I
water.
said
He was
just
just talking
water,
about-
just
He's
water.
confirming what you're saying. He's saying sugar's not good for your teeth.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea either, because there's a lot of people that like to just drink bottled water and not well water.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I like the idea of the whole project, especially that we're gonna remove the grub shack. That area would be the ideal location to rebuild something like this. And
I agree.
I'd like to see it move forward, or you guys come up with, you know.
So we could keep moving on that aspect and get our hands wrapped a little closer around it.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I think our committee can work on that and bring it back next time.
What do we have going out right now? We've got the entrance, which could be 20 grand,
Installation of the playground equipment.
and then installation of the playground equipment, and then the chips under it. Maybe we can line up with that group to get a
But this-
baby grant for.
And this all,
put under it.
I mean, with the way, we already have some projects going for this year, which is great, but it's good to start the conversation now for this project to be next year's item and be ahead of the game or right on the ball with it.
Well,
So
it
we
would
we
require-
could be burning 35,000 or so as we speak with regard to install chips and entrance.
And even if we do use all that and there's 10 grand left, you can work on site prep this fall or something like that.
Or maybe this one will be the next in line then.
Could be, yeah.
The parking lot's gonna be 18,000. I think we had a quote from the playground place that they could come up and do it for 8 grand.
Right.
Not saying, you know.
Right, but that's a worst case scenario. Kind of.
28 plus the bedding under it, so we'd be burning 30 pretty easy.
So you're 24,000-ish, 25.
Melinda,
Well, since we're on this topic, I was gonna wait, but I'll share it right now. At my January Planning Commission meeting, we did updates, and I gave an update on this park's, where we were at with this park, and I mentioned that we have our playground piece bought, but we have to choose whether to try to line up volunteers. I explained the whole thing to them. But anyway, we have a gentleman by the name of Nate Griswold that sits on our planning commission, and he said, maybe my company can help with this. And I'm not quite sure, you know, whether it was in dollar donation or if his company could build it. I don't know which. I'm like, great, thank you, we will be in touch with you. So I was gonna get with Scott and have Scott call him and say, hey, you know, is this a possibility, and how much? Because that could be fantastic, especially if we could build on what Mr. Griswold is interested in helping us with. You know, if we could pile on with other volunteers and that sort of thing, maybe we could get it built for without having to touch our budget at all, it would be wonderful, or very little.
I had checked into the guy that did the one at the Lions Club, and he's retired and let his license lapse, so
Okay,
that was not an option. But
yeah. so-
Something you can talk with this.
I'm actually probably going to have Scott, because Scott's more, be more of the technical when it comes to that, so I will have Scott contact Nate.
That's a copy of the instruction.
Oh, thanks, Scott.
Well, you
Like,
can show it to that guy.
Yeah, I will, yeah, I'll get it to him, that's fine, yeah.
Nate's a good guy.
You are prepared, Scott.
All the technical is in here, he is prepared, so, okay, yeah, I'll get this to Scott and see.
So is there anything else under, Don, did you have anything else under Miles Fremont?
No, I think that's all. Just, I appreciate your thinking about this and for the whole commission to think about that, because I think it's a worthwhile thing. I really do. But I agree, maintaining what we have is more important than adding on. Yeah, maintain what we have. Because I feel when I was at Veronica Valley just recently, and it's nice if everything, if the parking lot is level, if there's not ruts in it, there's not water holes in it and stuff like that. Same with Miles Kimberly and Old Settlers, there's a trail through there, and that deserves the same attention. I think the roads going in, how they look is to me, is very important. So I think maintaining is excellent.
What I forgot to add too, when I talked to Elmer's, when they dig that out for the sub base, I don't know, is that pretty good black dirt there? Yeah. Well, I guess what I'm looking at, we can leave it on site, or else they're gonna truck it off. If they truck it off, it's gonna add to the cost, but if it's pretty decent black dirt, we got a place to pile it. We can either make a berm, or we could probably sell it to somebody to screen it for it to sell and make some money off of it too, so.
I don't think it's that good.
What's that?
I don't think it's good enough to sell.
Yeah, I don't know until we get down
It's
to it, but
pretty
right now, black dirt's a
sandy.
premium, so.
Rocky.
Yeah, maybe Mountain Phil, yeah.
And maybe temporarily store it across the road.
Right, yeah, we could store, I mean, if it's decent,
What was the width of the pathway at 65,000?
8 feet.
8 feet, okay.
Like
And
George's thick.
I've got a call into Tim, I haven't heard back from him, but to prod him along a little bit on the removal of the grub
Scott
shack.
likes boulders.
I called him on Monday, left him a message, I haven't heard from him, but if I don't hear from him in a couple days, I'll just swing by his house. You can't get away from me there.
Kitchen.
But I know he's got a couple of big projects, he's got one in Glen Arbor, and he's still working in Leland, so, I'll get that from him.
Is that Tim?
Yeah,
There's a permit that he's gonna have to pull before he moves it.
the demo permit, or the moving permit, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
get with Amber.
okay.
Yeah.
I saw that email, or
We're covering
And the
permit.
county's paying for it too.
Permit.
the county will pay for it, but he has to pull it in his name, right?
He has to pull it, but
Yep.
we pay it.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay, is it, and under the Four Farm Barn Committee, was that did you have that on there, as basically the same discussion?
I just forgot to remove
Okay,
that.
all right.
Yeah.
Moving on to Old Settlers?
We have not met as an Old Settlers Committee. I will follow up with Nate on the playground, because I'd like to get even a date for installation locked in as soon, earlier in the year, the better.
Right.
And then probably, is it Elmer's we would contact to see about possibly getting, either purchasing or getting donated some big ugly rocks to put in front of like the swing set area? Would that be Elmer's? Do they have giant boulders or?
Or Reith Riley,
Or Reith Riley? Okay. I know when we built this campus, we found some, and those are like at the base of the hill there, and, but
Are you talking just to avoid cars?
yeah, just to stop a car from hitting the swing set.
Go ahead, Steve.
It seems to me that Zach and John are in a position that they might want to donate something to the park. Seeing as how they're driving over our property every day.
Oh, from across the street?
Affirmative.
Oh, gotcha. No, that might be a possibility. They may know of some giant rocks.
Well, I mean, you don't have to say giant, just say significant size. I mean, there's a lot of rock that they're moving around every day. And
Okay.
they probably have to move it from here and move it from there. They probably have a pile of it.
Even
Okay.
if they went up to Reith and got oversized stuff for
Yeah.
cheap, it's pretty cheap.
They don't have to be
Okay.
pretty, so, okay. I'll check with them.
I'll see Zach tomorrow probably. I can.
Oh, will you? Did you mention it to him?
What are you looking for, rocks?
Big rocks to put in front of the swing set so that.
So the
because
kids
there's
don't
not a
get
whole lot of
driven over
distance
by
between the swing set and the road and the parking.
Because the swing set doubles as a sandbox. So you have your little children playing in the sand there in front of the swing set. What happens is cars pull up right up to there and park.
Discussion.
They pull right up. There's nothing to stop a car if it accidentally hits the gas instead of the brake. There's nothing to stop a car right now. And our children are right there.
Road commission had a lot of guardrails. Galvanized things.
No.
Well, I mentioned those cement posts and something like, maybe that's.
Rocks would be more rustic.
Rocks would be more,
Yeah, rocks would be more parkish.
Yes.
Concrete boulders are not the thing.
You're on.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else under old settlers?
Appreciate that though,
While
John.
you're doing that, and if you need me to get involved, I've got the risk management written down about the chips/bedding underneath, and there's a
Yeah.
potential of a resource for that and maybe even a grant. Maybe we need to follow up on that pretty closely. I don't know.
Or
if you want me
during
to call or.
pine chips if that works, but yeah,
Yeah,
MMRMA is gonna
the
have to.
risk guy, I mean,
Yep.
we went round and around a little bit when we put the equipment in at Veronica Valley, and we ended up going ahead and having that company bring the certified stuff because of what risk management was saying. And that's what we did for that one. So I don't know if we're gonna do something different at Old Settlers or not, I just thought I'd bring it up.
So a RAP grant from MMRMA?
Quite possibly, but is that what you and Dave were just talking about?
Well,
Or is that different?
His
I'm
might
going
be
on the
different.
vague memory of this rush information we got last spring, and the commission here said we can't take that on, we had to get stuff together within a week or whatever.
Well, maybe.
One of the things identified in that grant program was this rubber padding to go underneath the whole playground area.
The RAP grant's a great idea.
That is.
That is a
Yeah,
good
it's a
idea.
separate one, but that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's all about.
Well, cool.
Well, if you're gonna go with rubber, you have to build the playground.
Well, I heard we
To that.
can't now, that environmentally, they don't allow us to use rubber anymore. I heard that,
Well,
if
whatever,
it's
but-
true.
That's
So-
that engineered stuff.
Cause that's set up for 12 inches of mulch.
Okay.
Yeah, would it create a drainage, you would want to avoid a drainage problem for sure, and a collection of snow and
And
ice.
that's what you're talking about, is where it's,
Raised
Where
up so
it's
it
set,
doesn't.
so
it
you'll have
sits at
to,
a certain level, so
you have to build it to the mulch you're gonna use. so.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, John, you had a question?
This kayak and canoe launch, how much is that gonna cost and I don't know, I guess elaborate on it. That's in the plans and stuff and whatever.
It already exists. Well,
It does.
we had talked about building that rack for the canoes, right? There
For the
was a-
rowing
For the
team.
rowing.
The rowing.
Rowing, and that's, they've kind of fell out of touch with us.
Well, they
So this
never
thing
came
where it
back.
says
Yeah.
kayak and canoe launch, we don't have to,
There's an existing one there. The last time I was at the park, I don't know that it was in the greatest of shape. It's off to the, near the grub shack and
Northeast corner.
northeast corner. I don't know.
What does it consist of right now? Or if
It's just a partially paved ramp going down towards the water.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, there's no
There's
dock structure.
there's no dock structure or.
Not there. It's further down.
There is a dock there, but it's in a separate
Yeah.
location.
The purpose of that is just for being able to walk something down. We're actively discouraging any kind of motorized vehicle going up and down that ramp. And the Lake Association, really, there's only one public access for the Glen Lakes, and they have a boat washing station at that public access, and they're very astutely getting everything washed, coming and going to inhibit invasives. And the signage on the post at that point at Old Settlers talks about individuals taking their kayaks down and bringing them back to make sure they're washed before they take them down. And there's no one stationed there. But there are some road ends too that people can do the same thing, so,
So
anyway.
we don't have a big plan, do we or don't we
No,
have?
there's
There's no need to, okay.
No. That rowing club had that. They were here and pitched it to us, and we said, yeah, come back, and they never.
They never came back.
So. Okay, Veronica Valley.
Once again, our meeting, next meeting, this month's meeting is this coming Monday. We will be looking at and coming up with a recommendation of, which I hope we get to a recommendation of parking lot design, basic concept, so that the entrance that is set up, laid out, put in place yet this spring matches the design of a parking lot that's going to connect to it on the other side.
Dave, can you talk into your microphone more?
Sorry. We will be bringing that to you in March. We will be bringing the wayfaring signage look. We'll bring the signs we've decided on to this group for approval. That what we've worked with Don and I and John Welter have worked on making sure that the signage at Veronica and at Miles Kimmerly matches. So there's consistency in the look of those wayfinding signs.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be checking into some other things, the 2% grant possibility through Bill Watson, et cetera. But all of that will have to wait till the March meeting.
I was wondering if we could get a grooming update from Scott.
Groomed.
You haven't set a 2-track though,
I did.
did you?
Yeah, before the thaw. I don't know what it looks like now, but
Rock hard. I've skied it twice. The grooming that's got it done is the initial step of rolling it, packing it. There wasn't enough snow yet to set the track, but the skiing was excellent prior to yesterday.
Have you done anything at Miles? You've been grooming there too? I drove by that the other day, and I looked like it from the road, but I couldn't tell for sure. Has that been being used there too?
the woods have. The
Okay.
outer loop, not so much, but.
Yeah. As long as it's being used, it's all in there.
I mean.
Good. John?
If we're done with Veronica, I would like to come back to this item about potential grant opportunities. So I guess, where are we on this? And do we need to apply for some of this stuff yet this year? Or should this committee start? It seems like we're always missing these grant things.
Well, the
So-
documentation I left in your packet, it's the last page of the packet, was the email that Trudy sent me. And I think the reason she sent it to me is because whenever I see something from one of the state-related publications like MAC or whatever, and it looks like something that might appeal to her because she wears a lot of hats in planning, I send it to her and I always say, have you seen this? So I think that's why she sent it to me, but I clicked on the link again and it is closed. I would have to delve more into MSHDA to see if I can look up neighborhood enhancement program. It seems to me though that there appears to be a lot of conditional things attributable to these municipal type of grants. And the one thing that I was thinking about looking into is maybe some private grants like Rotary Charities, the Olson Foundation, there's other ones.
There's a
You know,
lot of grants.
there are a lot of private grant opportunities that you just give them the plan, like, yeah, that sounds good, and hand you a check. You don't have to have all these things you have to tick off to do it. So keep in mind, you have to have a good plan to sell to these private granting opportunities.
A lot of them are small grants, like for $1,000, 500, oh, whatever.
They add up.
Right.
You know,
Well, I saw that, and it seems like all we do, and I read that, what you gave us, I thought it was wonderful. But we sit here and then we have another meeting a month later and we're not applying for this, or each group isn't saying, okay, let's come back with an idea at our next meeting what we should apply for a grant for. And Scott's right, there's a lot of this little money laying around, and I was gonna bring up a couple at our Veronica meeting, but I don't think we're doing anything. That's end of my speech.
But we have to have a concrete plan in order to sell this. We have
Well,
to
we've
have.
got some 5-year plans and we
True.
got some trails we want.
You have that, but you have to have something concrete for them to look at. Here's your vision. You have a document that shows the layout and it shows how you get to that process, whether it's grading, site improvement, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot that you have to take into consideration in order to promote, to get that funding.
I don't know.
There's 10 of us here and we should do something, I guess.
Yeah.
I rest my case.
I mean, the biggest thing for me with the grant opportunities, it's at any given time, there's nobody here that's gonna say, no, don't apply for that
Right.
grant. But it takes one person to spearhead it, to get the ball rolling, put together the portfolio, folder, flyer, whatever it is you're gonna pitch to these people. Really, I mean, we're not all gonna do that as a whole group. It takes, just like Dave did it for Veronica, I mean, it takes the one person to spearhead it, whether it's a person from a committee or if we choose somebody from here.
Well, the
Well,
other.
one was paving trails, and don't we want to do something out there at Miles Kimmerly?
Yeah.
And should we say, okay, let's do that, let's get the form, let's start applying, let's start working on it, and maybe then it gets down to where we only have to match half of it or something. I don't know. I
Now,
guess-
the other thing to keep in mind, if I put on my administrative hat, the board has a grant policy. You have to get board approval to apply. You also have to have board approval to accept the
Let's
grant.
get started.
So, but you have to be well-planned.
Again, the paved loop walkway at Miles Kimmerly, in my estimation, would be a really high qualifying request under Recreation Passport, which is one of the 2 large DNR grant possibilities. With the singularity of that kind of request, we're looking for a loop paved walkway. It may be that if we get started on that, that could be ready by a year from now. I mean, there's no way to have it ready for
this
April
year.
1st, no. Because in fact, you really, with the process involved through the commission, et cetera, you gotta have everything ready by the end of February.
Right.
Yourself, in order to really have it filed in the state by the 1st of April. So
we need-
Recreation Passport's one strong possibility for that kind of project. If I may go on slightly different, the most attractive Rotary grant that, well, I was really looking specifically at our fishing improvement, fishing access improvement, et cetera, at Veronica. They have I can't bring back the title right now. They have a grant program that awards every single month, and the final decision on making a grant is made by a subcommittee at Rotary, and it doesn't have to go through their long, lengthy process of all the support work that they require you to go through as an organization if you're asking for a larger grant. I've been waiting for this spring to see where we're at with the walkway from the fishing access that we've already improved. This grant is designed specifically as a program for the finishing touches on disabled access. Most of those grants have gone actually to private homes. $500, $800, $1,200 to finish ramps, safety bars, that kind of thing in some disabled person's home. But when I talked with Rotary about it last fall, their suggestion was wait until you have the entire fishing access pathway that we've done now. Have that done, see what you might need to finish that access up to your parking lot, and then that might be considered. Again, they pointed out to me, really our money is yes, we award every month, we keep it turning over fast, but it's mostly been awarded to improving either private residences or some workspace, not so much a park in a access walkway. But that's something we'll look at more. That's just an example of another possibility of a small grant locally.
Steve, did you have something?
Well, I was wondering, and I don't know the structure, but Dave's been up to his eyeballs in this whole topic of grants and whatnot. Went through that huge cycle, and we get the plan done. We got an official plan for Veronica Valley, a 5-year plan, and we went for a grant, all kind of in one time frame with it Gosling? Or, no, yeah, Gosling. Anyway, would it be appropriate to have a couple people brainstorm a bit, maybe even talk to Laurel a little bit and try to get a direction? And what do we need to do personnel-wise or whatever to move forward with some form of organized grant applications or grant discussions? And I don't know, I can't appoint people, but Dave knows a lot. Charlie looks like he's listened and he's chomping at the bit to learn more. But I don't know where to go from here exactly. We can talk in this group, and a lot of us are busy, and how do we move forward is kind of the question. Dave's spent a zillion hours.
Well, I will suggest, after listening to that DNR presentation yesterday, the grant coordinator for our region, which is the western side of Michigan, northwestern side of Michigan, she seemed quite amenable to any kind of comments. And I can send everyone her contact information, and then if someone wants to either email her some questions and include everyone on it, just kind of say, I'm kind of new to this process. We are interested in updating a specific park. This is what we're planning on doing. What's the best course of action? Do you have documentation? That kind of thing. And it is like Dave said, it's not just a formal thing. You start out, work it through the year, and then crunch time is January through April 1st. But I can certainly send her contact information to everyone.
Please do.
Her name's
That'd be good.
Alexandra.
That's a good starting point if somebody wants to pick up the ball.
What about Miles Kimberly paving? Should we be looking at that?
Well,
Absolutely.
From what I've seen and heard in this last meeting, I mean, essentially, there's 2 projects which were discussed which might qualify for grant funding.
Let's do it.
That's the loop trail at Miles Kimberly and this kiosk concept that you had for Miles Kimberly.
Let's do it.
Those could be packaged as individual projects. And if Miles Kimberly Committee wants to contact this person who can steer you through the process and get you started, just give her a contact and tell her, lay out those 2 things and see if they would in fact qualify, in her opinion, and how you can proceed to go for a grant.
And even if she doesn't think we have a good case for any of the available DNR granting opportunities, she does know the names and organizations that are private that might be a better fit. She did stress that during the meeting.
Perfect.
Should the Miles Kimberly Committee meet with you, other than their regular monthly committee, and say, let's get started on this?
I don't know if
If you send us the information,
I'll
then
send
we
them
can
the
inquire.
information, and yeah, exactly. You can have a good conversation with her.
Right.
It could be just a quick Zoom meeting, if you want to talk to her.
If you send us the information, I'm sure
Yeah,
I'll call.
yeah.
I think
Great.
several others might too.
That's why I want to.
You're right. You're right. Okay, so you guys will inquire about it at least?
Absolutely.
Okay. Moving on, is there any public comment? Nobody's here? Commissioner comments? Anybody? Chairperson comments? The only thing I've got to say is I like the way that the board is working right now. We've got some projects going that we're gonna be spending some money on, things are moving, we're looking It's only February and we're looking at next year, so I like the grant talk. I think we're moving in a good direction.
I'll second that. We've got more going, we've got more committed work and skill set from all of you than my previous 5 years on the
Yeah, this is by
commission.
far the best.
So things are looking very good, in my opinion.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We're adjourned.
Okay, everybody keep your documentation from today in the folder, bring it with you in March, and you will have a new binder with months in it to stick everything in. We'll keep you organized.
Thank you for that, Laurel, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I will not be at the March meeting, but I will be at our women's.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, I'm sure I. So maybe she can add the.
I know maybe
March meeting.
Okay.
Can I get that email?
Yeah, I'll,
Just add everything.
yeah, your name's on it, I'll get it all set.
Great.
All right.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, well, she's gonna send it out right away.
Yeah, yeah, I'll get it. I'll ask him, stop him down, you know,